Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into something incredibly fascinating. We're looking at a sovereign, on-chain economy built entirely on Pulse Chain, and it's called the Darker Grid. Now, if you follow decentralized finance at all, you already know that creating a truly sustainable, closed-loop economy, well, it's basically the holy grail of protocol design. And honestly, the Darker Grid has engineered some structural blueprints here that are just paradigm shifting. We're going to break down exactly how this ecosystem operates, how it locks down its borders, and how it brilliantly aligns the incentives of every single person participating in it.
But to really wrap our heads around what the Darker Grid is actually doing, we've got to start with a fundamental question. What exactly is a sovereign on-chain economy? And, why do we even need one? Well, look at traditional DeFi right now. It's facing a massive systemic problem. It is constantly bleeding value. You've got these automated trading bots and mercenary capital just swooping in, extracting yield through flash mint reward gaming, and completely draining liquidity pools before actual human participants even realize what hit them. It's incredibly frustrating, right? But the Darker Grid, it's an environment explicitly designed from the ground up to solve this exact problem. It's an ecosystem that actually fights back.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our structural blueprint for today's explainer. First, we'll look at the sovereign economy on Pulse Chain. Second, the DRKR, immutable hard cap. Third, fuel cells, units of participation. Fourth, the mandatory calibration phase. And finally, number 5, getting ready for the grid. Let's get to it.
Section 1. Sovereign economy on Pulse Chain, built to withstand the bots.
Okay, so let's take a macro view of this foundational network environment, because this isn't just a simple token contract we're talking about. It's practically a multi-layered defensive fortress deployed on Pulse Chain. When we stack up traditional DeFi against the Darker Grid, the architectural differences are literally stark. Traditional protocols are so often just ruined by mercenary bots. Think about arbitrage bots, right? They frequently route tokens directly between two pools as a completely toll-free pass-through. They dodge taxes entirely and siphon off value. Well, the Darker Grid is engineered to drain those leeches. It enforces a flat 10% sentry tax that hits every single sale, and yes, that absolutely includes pool-to-pool arbitrage. So in this beautiful twist of irony, the bots are literally funding the rewards for the true stakeholders. The whole system is built to repel automated extraction and exclusively reward real, time-staked human participation.
Section 2. The DRKR Immutable Hard Cap, the protocol's native currency.
2,222,222. I want to boldly anchor this specific number in your mind because absolute scarcity is the gravitational center of this entire economy. This isn't just some vague target. It is a hard-coded maximum supply.
And that brings us to a really critical definition. The DRKR token, that's spelled DRKR, has an immutable hard cap. This guaranteed maximum supply of exactly 2,222,222 tokens is enforced directly at the ERC20 smart contract level. There are no inflation schedules, no minting functions left open, and absolutely no admin keys that can ever inflate or alter it. What's really fascinating here is that during the protocol's V3 migration, they minted exactly up to this cap. So the supply, it's totally complete. From this point forward, thanks to a permissionless burn mechanism, the supply of DRKR can only shrink. It can literally never, ever increase.
Moving on to Section 3, fuel cells, units of participation, your ticket to the grid.
So if DRK is the electricity, the fuel cells are the hardware. The source documentation gives us this fantastic quote: "Your fuel cell isn't just a token, it's a battery that needs to find the grid's frequency." And this brilliantly illustrates the core mechanic of the protocol. These fuel cells are the literal batteries powering every single yield mechanic on the grid. You simply cannot access the treasury, the jackpots, or the bonus pools without one. They are your exclusive unit of participation.
Now, the rules for these fuel cells are incredibly strict and highly intentional. They're ERC 721 NFTs, and they are minted exclusively with DRKR. The mint price is immutable too. It's exactly 1 DRKR per cell. No bonding curves, no dynamic pricing. To stop whales from just sweeping in and dominating in a single transaction, there's a hard per-transaction cap of 200 cells. But here is where the game theory gets really brilliant. Guardian status. If your wallet holds 10 or more fuel cells, the smart contract recognizes you as a true community member and grants you a 100% exemption from that 10% sentry tax we talked about earlier. The contract just reads your on-chain balance, and if you hit that threshold, boom, you trade completely tax-free. The bots pay the toll, while the real stakeholders move unhindered.
Section 4. The mandatory calibration phase, the rite of passage.
You see, you can't just mint a fuel cell and immediately start draining the treasury. No way. There is a critical anti-gaming latency period that every newly minted cell has to endure. The protocol runs on strict 11-day rounds. Let's walk chronologically through the precise 3-round initiation process every new fuel cell goes through. Step 1 is assembly, which happens in round N. You mint your cell and it joins your bloodline. That's the cohort of everyone who minted in that exact same round. During this round, the cell is entirely offline. Step 2 is calibration, happening in round N+1. This is an 11-day period where your cell actually syncs with the grid. And finally, step 3 is activation, in round N+2. Only now is your cell live and combat-ready for staking.
That step 2 calibration period, it's officially called the thermal soak. So the crucial point is this: this latency is a feature, not a bug. In traditional DeFi, an attacker can just flash mint a token, claim a massive reward, and dump the whole bag in the exact same block. Well, the thermal soak completely neutralizes that vector. It prevents immediate staking or claiming to stop flash mint reward gaming dead in its tracks. It essentially forces every single player to have real skin in the game, enduring 11 full days of price exposure and latency before their battery can output any power whatsoever. To summarize the functional life cycle of a fuel cell, we can map out these 3 distinct states of existence. First up, offline. You just minted it, it's calibrating, and it absolutely cannot be staked or claimed. Next, it becomes live. Calibration is complete, and it begins pulling regular rewards every 11 days. And finally, if you choose to lock it up for a full 180 days, it reaches its final form, which is supercharged. In this state, it receives separate pulse dividends from an exclusive bonus pool on top of the regular yield.
Section 5. Ready for the grid. Plugging in.
Okay, so we've survived the thermal soak, we've completely bypassed the bots, and our fuel cell is fully calibrated. The moment your fuel cell is live, the grid goes to work for you. It starts paying you out in 2 distinct assets. The first is more of that native, absolutely scarce DRKR token. The second is eDAI, which is PulseChain's wrapped DAI stablecoin. That means the protocol is generating real external asset yield for its participants, funded directly by the taxes levied on those trading bots and early exiters. This opens up some super complex strategies like the Loyalist and Voidwalker paths, which we are absolutely going to have to explore in our next explainer.
Which really leaves us with this final thought. You've got a token with an immutable hard cap that can only ever shrink. You have a participation asset that forces everyone to endure a mandatory waiting period. When absolute scarcity meets mandatory patience, the game theory changes completely. So if you manage to secure a spot on the grid, the only question left is, how long will you keep your cell plugged in? Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into the darker grid. Keep learning, stay curious, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.